I'm Max Harold, and I did research and some 3D printing.
I'm Frank Passy, and I did sketching and model making.
I'm Ian Laley, and I did 3D rendering.
An estimated 19 million children have visual impairments of some kind. It turns out that 90% of all visually impaired people live in low-income settings. 80 to 90% of visually impaired children attend public schools. These stats show that there is not only a sizable portion of the population that could use a game like this, but also that this portion of the population could use a game that is both inexpensive and durable.
So we looked at existing games in the market, and the ones that were designed for people with visual impairment deviated too far from their mass market counterparts, in turn making them unappealing for both those with and without visual impairment.
We chose Checkers because we wanted a desirable, marketable, and accessible game for as many consumers as possible.
Making glasses that should hopefully help me empathically model having limited vision.
But still having a somewhat of vision.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a little hole in the middle of each section.
And Frank is just wearing his hat over his head to simulate full blindness. So he cannot see anything at all. Who wants to go first?
I don't know. Let's have Frank go first.
Okay, start over.
Yeah, believe in yourself. That's me. That's also me. That's me. You just went off the board. That's not fair. That's the edge of the board. You just did that again. Oh, this is getting out of hand. Yeah, that's fine. No, I just moved your pieces back. It's my turn.
Frank, what's the most challenging part about this?
The fact that I don't know where any of those pieces are actually moving. I'm just sort of taking a wild guess by putting my hand towards his side of the board.
So you're just guessing distances and...
It's pretty much entirely guesswork, yeah. I'm not even really sure where all the pieces are going.
What gets tricky is when Frank makes a move that's like 90% correct, but the piece is just hanging off the square a little bit, and things just start getting a little bit messy and sloppy. And then if I correct his piece even a little bit, he thinks I just moved, it gets really tricky.
Yeah, I'm using a lot of sound cues to help me guide through the game, and when I hear Max apparently moving a piece of mine come to the correct space, I think he's moving.
I brought pre-existing checkered boards. What do you want to tell us about yours, Frank?
Yeah, this one is a bunch of smaller pieces than what we were making our board out of.
It is wood though, like ours, that's kind of what we were going for. It has the nice click-clack of the wood, but the pieces are really small and hard to handle.
They're also very glossy, which makes them sort of flimsy and slide around too much.
And the painting on the board's not very nice. It scratches really easily. So this is the checkerboard that I purchased, and right off the bat, it first of all has storage in it, which is a nice feature, but it's the cheapest plastic I've ever seen in my life. You can bend the board, the pieces rattle around, and it just overall doesn't fit very well together. And the boards actually concave in the middle. The board actually is not even painted on, it's just a big sticker that I could start to peel off with my fingers. And the pieces are fine, they're regular plastic pieces, but they don't sit on each other very well. They really slide around and just don't look or feel very nice. So you were having trouble locating different spaces on the board.
Right. And
so
even after I found pieces on my my side, it was still hard to figure out where to slot them. Okay.
So you kind of want to have each space be like a separate little cup that you then like place your piece in?
But like,
Is that what you're saying?
I mean, now that I think about it some more, maybe not, because that would make stacking things impossible pretty much.
Yeah, it'd make stacking things impossible, and then our pieces would have to be probably rounded. Otherwise, they just kind of sit awkwardly in the spaces.
Yeah.
So what if we, instead of making them cups, we kind of depress them into the board, making like ridges in between each of the spaces? So Frank mentioned the sounds, because he couldn't tell where his pieces were moving, and he couldn't feel that they were colliding with other pieces. Our typical white squares, much like this board actually, the white squares will be a wood, the wood of the board itself, and then the black squares will be probably like a fabric or a felt, and that way, when you place your pieces, you get an audible cue as to where the piece has been placed. Currently, checkerboards have two different colors of pieces, but they're the same shape. So I'm thinking that what if we change the shapes up? What if we have two different shapes for each of the different players? And so that gives you several ways to feel the difference, because you have a circle, and then you have a square, so you can feel this one has no corners, this one has corners. Then you get the top, which is a rounded dome shape, or a pointier pyramid shape.
I think this works better.
I think getting precision cuts on materials.
Yeah.
Easy to do.
There it is.
How did it go?
Pretty well. I thought it was a lot better the first time. I think I just need some more practice, not being able to see the board. But for the most part, it was easy to remember all the pieces where Max's pieces were. You could definitely tell what the between the wood and the felt, what the difference was. The squares and circles were easily distinguishable, just like by the corners. And then if I needed further proof, I had to do them in the point.
We're trying to design a game that bridges the gap between the needs of those with visual impairment and those without visual impairment.
Checkers is a simple starting point, and in the future, we'd like to apply the same design thinking to other games in the market.